This is my third discussion for the post for this class. Today I'm going to discuss the Scopes trial and the role that it played in the Fundamentalist-Modernist Controversy. As the Fundamentalist-Modernist Controversy raged in the early 1900s, virtually every locality experienced an impact from the arguments. The small town of Dayton, Tennessee was not exempt from this experience, as they saw the eyes of the nation centered on them during the Scopes trial of 1925. Officially titled The State of Tennessee versus John Thomas Scopes, the trial put the debate over evolution in schools in the national limelight. Although the trial technically only questioned whether or not John Scopes violated the Butler Act and Tennessee's laws, the grander issue of evolution's place in the education system and how Christians viewed the issue was really at stake. Through the Scopes monkey trial, modernists achieved a great victory over their fundamentalist rivals that resulted in a shift in the popular mentality of Christians in America. The American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, located in New York City, wanted to make an attack on the anti-evolution bills that were becoming very popular in many states during the early 1920s. These bills forbid public schools from teaching the evolution of man in favor of the Christian creationism approach. The ACLU chose to make an attack in Tennessee on the Butler Act, and they sought someone to be a defendant for them in the case. Through the work of George Rapelier, the trial took place in the small town of Dayton, Tennessee, in an effort to bring more attention and investments to the community. Also, Rapelier also convinced substitute teacher John Scopes to play the role of the defendant, even though he had never actually taught the theory of evolution in school. The ACLU agreed to pay for all of Scopes' expenses, and he was charged with the teaching of evolution in schools, evolution of man specifically in the school, and was arrested, setting up in a very iconic trial. Both sides brought heavyweights to the courtroom in the form of William Jennings Bryan, a leader of the Democratic Party, presidential hopeful, and a very conservative Christian on the side of the state of Tennessee, and Clarence Darrow, an agnostic atheistic who was a famous criminal lawyer on the side of the defense. Darrow was met with many difficulties throughout the short 12-day trial because the judge was a conservative Christian and he refused to allow the theory of evolution to become the central debate in the trial. He sought to keep the issue focused on whether or not Mr. Scopes actually violated the law and not whether the law itself was justifiable. As a result, all the evolution experts that Darrow had testified had their accounts struck from the record. The trial seemed very much in favor of Bryan and the state of Tennessee until Darrow made one last bold move, which would turn the trial upside down. He called Bryan to the stand to testify as an expert on the Bible, and Bryan foolishly agreed to be a witness as long as Darrow would in turn do the same. Darrow questioned Bryan with a very sarcastic tone about many of the miracles of the Bible, but Bryan defended his beliefs that the Bible's account of the miracles of Jonah and the whale, Noah's flood, and many other miracles were true. However, when Darrow asked Bryan about the 6-day creation story and whether or not Bryan believed the earth was created in 6 literal days, Bryan wavered in his stance. Bryan admitted that the 6 days of creation could have actually been millions of years, and Darrow successfully achieved his goal of making the Bible subject to reinterpretation. Despite the testimony, the judge struck it from the record, and the next day the John Scopes was found guilty of violating the Butler Act. However, the main result of the trial was the shift in popular opinion that resulted from the testimony of William Jennings Bryan. By his statements, he allowed the Bible to be open to interpretations based on scientific and philosophical ideas. The modernists gained many supporters as a result, and the fundamentalists and Bryan suffered a huge blow. The trial highlighted the divide that existed among Christians over the role of science alongside their faith, and this division dominated religious life throughout the 20th century.